Okay, so let me firstly shortly introduce myself. As already was Miroslav said you, I'm a director of the Department of Testing and Calibration Laboratories. So we were dealing with the transition of ISO 17025 in our institute, in Czech Accreditation Institute. And it was a big challenge for us because we have almost 640 laboratories. I mean, testing laboratories and calibration laboratories together. So there was for us, for our accreditation body, a huge work to finish it, and we need to finish soon because the transition period is terminated at the end of this month. So regarding my presentation, I would shortly introduce our Accreditation Institute. I will shortly touch our international cooperation, the European Accreditation, EA. Then we will touch some topics from ISO 17025, 2017. And as a last point, I just really briefly inform you about the transition in our country, how it looked and where we are at the moment. Regarding the Czech Accreditation Institute, we are a national accreditation body in the Czech Republic according to Regulation 765, and we are full member of European accreditation and also ILAC and IAF. We are signatory of the multilateral agreement, MLA, for all these you can see in that box. Regarding the Eurachem is, of course, most interesting testing area, maybe calibration area, because this is very directly linked. Also proficiency testing providers, of course. And we are also provide an accreditation of the reference material producers. I would just maybe repeat or remind you what it is accreditation about. Also, of course, I think that you know about it, but I would just highlight that the accreditation means an official recognition that CAP is competent perform some specific activities. We issue accreditation certificate and the annex, and competent in this context means that the CAP is impartial, independent, of course has implemented a quality management system according to harmonized standard, and is professionally qualified. And this is the most important part of all the assessment and the result of this assessment audits, this accreditation. The area of chemistry is one of the most frequent, and I think that this area is well supported by the regulators and also by the industry and voluntary sector. So really, the most accredited laboratories in our country is from the area of chemistry. International cooperation, CAI is EA member. We, of course, are part of laboratory committee. Laboratory committee is the floor when it's possible to share knowledge and discuss any problems regarding the harmonization. So EA, LC, the main goal is really to harmonize all these, I don't know, about 40 accreditation bodies in Europe, the members of EA. And of course, we also talk with stakeholders. Eurachem is one of the most active, and well active stakeholder in EA laboratory committee. There are more stakeholders, Eurolab for the other kinds of laboratories. For example, ENFSI, the European Network for Forensic Science, eGolf for the testing in fire area, and many others. So we are focusing to sharing information with them, and also we together work on the EA documents. So stakeholders could contribute to EA documents, and EA contributes to the documents of stakeholders. I think the Eurachem is, as I already said, very active in this European Accreditation Laboratory Committee, and I think that is well known, especially for the area of proficiency testing, where the working group Triple EPT, led by Brian Brookman, was working on the, for example, EA 418. And I think that this is one of the very good documents and well used by the laboratories. Okay, so the main topic for today is the experience with ISO 17025 from a view of accreditation body. So I tried to do it like some expectations. So expectations we had when we started to study that standard, and we had the first seminars for our CAPs, for our laboratories, and how are the results, if there were some surprise, or everything was as we expected. So I would shortly talk about what was the history and the goals for the revision, and then I highlighted some big changes, and I will try to, during this presentation, evaluate it. What are the results? So the first one was a big structural change. Then the big topic was and is a risk-based approach, process approach. There was an option A and B. This was something what was for us new. And of course, I will touch some other changes. Regarding the short of history, ISO decided that the standard will be revised back in October 2014. There was a lot of comments. It was a really huge work on this standard, 6,900 comments during this work on the standard. The standard was published 29th of November. Somewhere I heard also 30th of November. I'm not sure, maybe it's not so important. In many countries, where we make a translation of the standard, and we need, of course, to implement it into the Czech standards. We needed to work on that, and we published that standards in our country on the 1st of April 2018. So that was a half of the year of this transition period, let's say, lost, because we couldn't start work with the standard before it was implemented as a Czech standard. Also, this standard need to be harmonized. So the harmonization was done on the 9th of March 2018. And after this harmonization, all the EAABs could start to offer this service according to new 17025. This original due date was end of November 2020. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, this deadline was postponed on the 1st of June 2021. So it's like last 2 weeks we have for the transition. Here you can see just shortly Just briefly, what was our project planning for accreditation body? I think it's really this transition of 17025, one of the hugest, most complex project we could imagine, because it's really considered is for many laboratories. So what were the goals for revision of this ISO 17025? There was a new structure, so harmonization of the other 17,000 standards and ISO 9001. There was also this option A and B. So the other generalization of the requirements, it could bring us a simplification of the text and this standard implementation based on the risk approach. So the other goal was introduction of process approach in laboratories and modernization, because you remember that old standard was originated in 1999. There was let's say just a slide or minor revision 2005. So we were working according to this standard almost 20 years, and it really needed some modernization regarding the IT, data integrity, verifications of software, and so on. And also there was a goal to implement some basic rules on the reporting of statements of conformity. Regarding the new structure, I think this was something what we were a little bit, let's say, scared of that, because for 20 years we were using Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 for the management system, and for the technical requirements Chapter 5. And now there is really this process approach. So we have a very similar structure to ISO 9001, and I would say that this was a really no problematic point for all the laboratories. I think that many companies where they use more standards, more systems, 9001, and for example some other 17,000 standards, it's easier to work for them maybe with such standard where the structure is very same. So this was something what I would say is positive. It's much more clear for all the users, and we didn't face any problems in this topic. The other one, the big one, and very often discussed change, is a risk-based approach in 17025. I started usually all the presentations in the past with the introduction of this 17025, and I put it here again because I think that very often these introductions of the standards are missed. We start to read standard somewhere in Chapter 3, where is the definition, and then maybe there is a purpose of this standards, and then there are requirements. But I think that very important is to read introduction in 17025, where is written that this document requires the laboratory to plan and implement actions to address the risks and opportunities. And if both are addressed, then it's the base for the increasing of effectiveness of the management system and achieving improved results and preventing negative effects. What is important and is written there, the laboratory is responsible for deciding which risks and opportunities need to be addressed. So we feel it, and we were talking about that with our laboratories in this way, that if laboratory will be dealing with all the risks and looking for opportunities here, then could it bring a huge advantage, savings, a slim documentation. So I would say that this is a big, or this was a big opportunity to change management system based on this 17025 and to simplify it and to use it in maybe a little bit different way. What are the results? I think that this opportunity was a little bit missed, because of course most of the laboratories prepared acceptable system for the dealing with risks, but mostly on a minimalistic level, just for the key parts of the standard. And requirements, of course, were fulfilled, but this effect, this side effect to use this risk-based approach, addressing the risks and to deal with risks and opportunities, to modernize this management system and to, let's say, as I wrote there, to put it in on higher level, and to, for example, to have a slim documentation, less papers, and so on. This, I think, was a little bit missed. So I think that I can just use my experience in my country, but very often this laboratories used a management system and made just really this light update. Of course, they implemented risks, and they implemented it especially in a part of impartiality and all this statements of conformities, these decision rules, and so on, but not so broad like it could possible. And I think that these side effects were not used, let's say. So this is the risk-based approach. Therefore, maybe questioner, because I'm not sure that this opportunity was really used. Process approach. Process approach is another change. Previous criterial specific requirements were not like linked into the process. Actually, is cleared clearly in a process way, and there is also some process map. I think easily used for the laboratories. I would say that the process in laboratories are implemented. That main process, I would say that it is really the main process. I mean, chapter 7 is usually well defined, described in quality manual. New ways of description like flowcharts in our country are rarely used in laboratories, but what is really just briefly touched are other processes, and still mostly in quality manual. Even the quality manual is not mandatory anymore. Usually laboratories use it, so they use it in a very simplest way they need. But I do not think that that's wrong. That's, I think, okay. They fulfilled and they did it like is best for the laboratories. Option A, option B, this I will just briefly show you. I'm not sure about this option A, option B. I think that 99% labs in our country use option A. I mean, direct implementation of 17025. So option B is something what I think was not necessary. Maybe you have a different approach, but we expected that because this was implemented in 17020 and 17065 a few years ago, before 17025, and the results were same. I would say that a laboratory usually establish really 17025. It's not the 9001 is not something what is directly usable in laboratories. So I think it's not the reason to implement 9001 in laboratory. Of course, also in option A, it's possible to use a lot of parts of management system, of company management system, based on 9001. So I think this was not a problem finally, and we and it was fine during the assessments. So some other changes: impartiality, risk identification on an ongoing basis. Generally, there is much more emphasis on impartiality, and I would say mostly this was well established in the laboratories. Lab focused on this impartiality risk, so I think finally there was not a big problems. Documentation of management system. There is much more emphasis on documentation, missing policies. I would say that I didn't notice some significant changes. As I already said, usually labs still have a quality manuals, and I found out that labs like to keep policies, what was a little bit surprising for me. We were talking during our trainings that there were minimal changes in technical requirements. This is something what maybe we underestimated, maybe because during the assessment we found that there really are differences. For example, with decision rules, we had a lot of discussions with laboratories about that. Uncertainty from sampling, of course, this is something what is not harmonized on EA level, and we are still talking about it. Even ILAC level, I think so. So this was something what we were a little bit surprised that there are really changes in this technical things. Ensuring the validity of results, more options as an intra-laboratory comparison and others. This was well accepted, I think, by the laboratories, and they try to use these new tools. Modernization, requirements on IT, data integrity, validation. This was also new, and we didn't find some big troubles with that. Sometimes could be problematic validation of some older systems and so on. Reporting the statements of conformity. We needed to explain it a little bit more than we expected, but it's I would say now it's well established in laboratories. For example, customers' data in test reports. This is something new. I would say it's simple. It's for the laboratory protection, but many of our laboratories didn't understood it well, and we needed to explain them what is important, that it's really for the laboratory protection to identify the data received from the customer in test reports. And as I already mentioned, contributions to measurement uncertainty arising from sampling. I would say Kai has very open approach to that, and the evaluation of the significance of this is really on the laboratories, and as I think is not harmonized in the world, we try to be really open to the solution from laboratories. And this is just very last slide from my side. I don't know if it's well visible. Just show you that we have 514 laboratories who applied for the reassessment for the transition to 17025 new version, and we finished with 510, and hopefully this 4 will be done in this last 2 weeks we have for the transition. So thank you for your attention.